Okay, I have a question for you. When you sit down to do something that needs real focus, I don't know, meditation, deep work, or in our case today, prayer, how long does it take before your brain just completely betrays you?
Betrays you. That's a strong word.
It feels like a betrayal. I mean, you're trying to connect, trying to find some quiet, and suddenly your brain is just yelling, "Did we pay the electric bill?" Or what was the name of that actor from that movie?
Ah, yes, the universal human experience.
It's like my mind is actively trying to sabotage the whole thing.
We call it cognitive drift, but you're right, it often feels more like cognitive rebellion. You want quiet, your brain wants, well, chaos.
Exactly. And the usual advice is just, clear your mind. Just stop thinking. Like the mind is this annoying roommate you have to kick out to get to the real spiritual stuff.
That is the traditional approach, for sure. Silence the intellect to hear the spirit. But what if that whole approach is, well, what if it's actually the problem?
See, that's the hook that got me. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a source that suggests the mind isn't the enemy of your spiritual connection at all.
hmm
In fact, it argues that if you turn your mind off, you might actually be cutting the wires on the whole operation.
It's a very counterintuitive take. We're looking at the Rhapsody of Reality's daily devotional, specifically the entry for Sunday, January 25th, 2026, by Pastor Chris Oyakhilome,
And the title is Yielding Your Mind to the Spirit in Prayer.
which sounds kind of gentle, but when you really get into the text, it's describing a very active process. It's about solving the signal-to-noise ratio in prayer.
Signal to noise. Okay, I like that. So let's set the stage here. The source is talking about a very specific kind of prayer, praying in tongues. Now, wherever you, the listener, land on that, we have to understand how the source defines it to get the argument.
Correct. The text basically frames praying in tongues as the baseline technology we're discussing. It calls it one of the most powerful spiritual exercises.
The language of the Spirit.
Yes, and that it involves uttering divine mysteries.
Which immediately makes me think of, like, encryption.
That is a really helpful analogy, actually. The idea is that your spirit is communicating directly with God, and it's bypassing the firewall of your natural mind.
It says it bypasses the limitations of the natural mind.
Exactly.
And that's usually the whole selling point. My natural mind is full of doubt, it's full of logic, it's full of the grocery list. So a bypass sounds fantastic. My spirit does the talking, my brain can go take a nap.
And that is precisely where the source finds the tension. It quotes 1 Corinthians 14:14 to point out a kind of glitch in that way of thinking.
Okay, what's the verse?
It says, "For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful."
Unfruitful. That's such a strange word to use for your brain.
It means barren, non-productive. Your spirit is sending this encrypted message, but your conscious mind, your understanding, has no idea what's being said. It doesn't have the decryption key.
Okay, but if the whole point is for my spirit to talk to God, why do I care if my mind is unfruitful? Isn't getting out of my own way the goal?
You'd think so. And a lot of people do treat that state as the objective. But this is where the Rhapsody text pivots hard. It argues that leaving your mind unfruitful is actually a huge missed opportunity. A system failure, even.
It says, however, your prayer becomes far more impactful and effective when your mind is engaged as you speak in tongues.
Impactful and effective.
Whoa.
Those are results-oriented words. The argument is that if your mind is checked out, the prayer might be happening, but the result of that prayer gets throttled.
So there's this conflict. I'm speaking a language my brain can't translate, but the text says I need to engage my brain to make it work better. How do I engage my brain in a conversation it doesn't understand?
It's not about translation. It's about synchronization. And this is where we get to that word in the title, yielding.
Yield your mind.
Right. And yield here doesn't mean stop. It's not surrender like giving up. It's more like a yield sign in traffic. You don't stop the car, you just adjust your speed to merge into the flow. You align yourself.
So how does the source say you do that?
It's very direct. It says, fix your attention on what you're praying about.
Fix your attention. That's active. That takes effort.
It does.
But wait, if I'm praying in tongues, how do I know the specifics of what I'm praying about to fix my attention on it?
You focus on the intent, the source. The text knows this is hard. It even says there may be the tendency for your mind to wander.
Oh.
It validates that whole experience we started with.
Right.
But then it gives a command. Refuse the distractions and deliberately keep your mind focused on the Spirit.
Refuse the distractions. That sounds like a workout, like holding a plank.
It is a mental plank. Think of it like this. Your spirit is the transmitter, sending the code. Your mind is the receiver. If the receiver is wandering off thinking about dinner, the connection is broken. You have to force the receiver to stay tuned to the right frequency, even if it can't understand the raw data yet.
So my mouth is speaking, but my brain is actively visualizing what the problem I'm trying to solve. Or God.
I think both. You're holding the space. You're creating a mental container for the spiritual content to fill. If your mind is distracted, that container's full of holes and everything just spills out.
Okay, that makes sense. But what's the payoff? Because holding that mental plank, fighting off those thoughts, that is hard work. Why do it?
And this is where the source gets really interesting. It promises a very specific result. It says, when you do this, when you synchronize the spirit and the mind, the Holy Spirit will flood your mind.
A flood, not a trickle.
A flood. And notice what's in the flood. It's not warm, fuzzy feelings. It's visions, thoughts, and ideas.
Thoughts and ideas. See, that's what's so different here. We usually separate spiritual from intellectual. Spiritual stuff is for the heart, thoughts are for the brain. This source says the spiritual act produces intellectual property.
Exactly. It connects them. It even calls them creative insights.
Creative insights. So you mean practical solutions.
Extremely practical. The text says, he enables you to see possibilities. So imagine you're a developer stuck on a piece of code, or a business owner trying to figure out a new strategy.
Or just a parent trying to get through to your kid.
Perfect example. You go into this prayer mode, you engage the spirit, you yield the mind to focus, and then pop, an idea lands. The solution appears. That's the flood.
It's almost like downloading a zipped file. The tongues are the download process, but because your mind was focused, it unzips the file into a thought you can actually use.
That's a perfect metaphor. If your mind was distracted, the download might have finished, but you never unzipped the file. It's just sitting there, inaccessible.
There's another phrase in here I really want to unpack. Godly imaginations.
Yes, that's a loaded term.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, imagination gets a bad rap in a lot of religious circles, right? It's linked with daydreaming or just making stuff up.
It can sound fake, yeah, but the source here is reclaiming it. It's elevating it. In this context, the imagination isn't a factory for fantasies. It's more like a rendering engine.
A rendering engine. Okay, I like that. So the spirit provides the raw data, but my imagination provides the pixels.
Precisely. If your screen is turned off, or if it's playing a rerun of that argument you had yesterday, the spirit can't project the divine reality. You have to yield the mind, clear the screen so the image can be rendered.
And the text says this is how you bring divine realities into manifestation.
Manifestation, that's the key word. Moving from the abstract to the concrete.
It says, as he grants you visions, respond accordingly. That's how you partner with him to bring heaven's plans to pass on earth.
Partner with him. That's a huge shift in responsibility, isn't it?
It really is. I think a lot of us see prayer as, I don't know, a vending machine. I put in a prayer, a miracle falls out. But partnering means I have a job to do.
It implies agency. That God has the plan, but he needs a human partner to execute it. And you can't execute a plan you haven't seen.
And you can't see the plan if your mind is unfruitful.
Or just distracted.
So prayer time isn't just about asking for things. It's a strategy session.
It's an intelligence briefing. You're there to get the coordinates, the strategy, the creative insight.
Which puts a lot of weight on that respond accordingly part.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
If you get the download, that brilliant idea, that moment of clarity, and you don't act on it, well, then the synergy breaks. The manifestation doesn't happen.
It's like God gives you the blueprints for a house and you just leave them on the coffee table.
And then you wonder why you don't have a house.
Right. But I prayed for a house. Yeah, and he gave you the architectural drawings, but you were thinking about what's for dinner.
Or you got the drawings and just never hired a contractor. The response is crucial.
So let's zoom out a bit, because the source doesn't treat this like a one-off event. It puts it in the context of the entire Christian life.
Yes, it describes the Christian life as a walk in the Spirit.
And it lists some very attractive outcomes for that life. Rest, joy, and victory.
Rest, joy, and victory. Now, think about that. How do you get rest in a world that is anything but restful?
Well, usually rest just means escaping, checking out.
But I think here, the rest comes from the clarity. The thing that causes stress is usually uncertainty, right? I don't know what to do about this problem. That's stress.
That's true. If I know exactly what to do, I'm not stressed, I'm just busy.
Exactly. So if this prayer mechanism works, if you yield your mind, get the creative insight, get the solution, the result is rest. You stop panicking because you have the divine strategy.
So the rest isn't inactivity, it's confidence.
It's the absence of anxiety because you're depending on his guidance. like the text says. You're following instructions instead of just guessing.
The prayer and confession part at the end sums it all up. It says, "Thank you for synchronizing my spirit with your will."
Synchronizing. There's that tech language again. It's all about alignment.
And look at the result of that alignment, causing me to function in divine wisdom and power. And then this line, which I think is maybe the most provocative in the whole thing, I create and shape
I
circumstances.
create and shape circumstances. That is not the language of a victim. That's not someone just hoping for the best.
No, that's an architect, a terraformer.
It frames the believer as an active agent. But notice the causal chain. You don't just shape circumstances by wishing. You do it by functioning in divine wisdom. And where did you get that wisdom?
From the download,
Yeah.
from the creative insights I got when I yielded my mind.
Exactly. So if you break that chain, if the mind wanders, if it stays unfruitful,
Mhm.
you don't get the wisdom and you lose the power to shape the circumstances. You become a victim of them instead of a creator.
That really raises the stakes on my mental discipline. I mean, I think I've always thought, oh, God understands if I get distracted. And maybe he does. But this text suggests I'm really just hurting myself. I'm cutting off my own supply line.
You're leaving the intelligence on the table. The source is arguing that the mind isn't a nuisance to be silenced. It's a critical instrument that God wants to use to change your reality.
It really validates the intellect, doesn't it? It doesn't ask you to be dumb to be spiritual.
Quite the opposite. It suggests true spirituality upgrades your intellect. It floods it with divine mysteries decoded into practical ideas.
So, to bring this all together, we started with the problem of the wandering mind, the grocery list that pops up during prayer.
The unfruitful understanding.
Right. And we learned that while praying in tongues is seen as a direct line to God, leaving the mind out of it is a mistake. It throttles the impact.
We have to yield. Actively focus our attention on the spirit. Synchronize the receiver with the transmitter.
And when we do that, we go from being unfruitful to being flooded. We get visions, thoughts, ideas, creative insights.
Which are the blueprints we need to create and shape circumstances. It turns prayer from a passive ritual into this session of high-level creative strategy.
So the solution to your biggest problem might not be out there in the world waiting for you to find it. It might be in here waiting to be downloaded.
Waiting for you to clear the mental clutter so it has a place to land.
So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. We've talked about missed opportunities. The text implies that this flow of divine realities is constant. God is always transmitting.
The signal is always on.
Right. So if the mind is the receiver, consider this. How many divine realities, how many business ideas, how many solutions to family problems, how many life-changing strategies are floating in the ether right now, unmanifested, simply because during your prayer time, you are mentally reorganizing your garage?
That's a haunting question. How many missed calls are in your spiritual call log?
The next time you close your eyes and your brain starts to wander, just remember, you're not just trying to be good, you're trying to catch a signal that could change everything. Tune in. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
See you next time.